Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Haley and today I'm going to be doing my fall book haul. So I haven't done a book haul for a couple months now. If you've seen that, then you know that I have a little bit of a problem, but it's fine. It's been a little bit since my last book haul, so this is essentially all of the books that I've gotten since then. I can't remember when that was. That might have been August, September-ish. Anyway, so I've got quite a few books here. If I have something to say about the book, I will give like a short synopsis. If I don't, I won't. If I've read it, I'll let you know what I think about it. But other than that, I'm not going to spend too much time on the books because I do have quite a few here and I don't want to be here all day, and neither do you. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. So the first three that I want to talk about are my book of the month picks over the last 2 months. So that first one is An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This is a sci-fi contemporary-ish story, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. This has been getting a lot of buzz and the blurb sounded really good on Book of the Month, so here we are. The next one I've got is The Lies We Told by Camila Way. This is a thriller. I've been seeing actually really good reviews for this one, so once again, with thrillers, if this is your first video here, then you probably don't know, but I don't like to go into thrillers knowing too much because I have found that the synopsises can sort of spoil stuff sometimes, so. And I actually just got this one a couple days ago in the mail, and that is A Ladder to the Sky by John Boyne. This is supposed to be a story about a cutthroat novelist who sort of goes and starts stealing other people's stories and is gonna do pretty much anything to climb his way to the top. So I'm really excited for this one. I know everybody loved The Heart's Invisible Furies, which is also by him, last year, so I'm really excited to check out his work. Okay, so moving forward, I only got one graphic novel in that time, and that is Check Please by Ngozi Ukazu. I really hope I said that right. If not, I'm sorry, please correct me if you know the correct pronunciation. This is a graphic novel about a guy that plays hockey and he also likes to bake. So I'm pretty sure he's also gay. Actually, I'm 100% sure that he's gay, so this is super cute. I love the art style and I'm already on page 66 and I'm enjoying this one a lot. So keeping up with that trend, we're gonna go through all of the books that I have bought that I've already read. So the first one that I'm gonna talk about is Into the Drowning Deep by Meyer Grant. I've already read this one. This is a science fiction thriller about mermaids. I ended up giving this like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I think at the end of the day, there was just a lot more like waiting around and a lot less of like what I really wanted to see, which was like a factor that they added in on like one of the last pages. So if you've read this book, I would love to talk about that because I haven't really discussed this with anybody yet. So yeah, I would definitely recommend checking this out if you're into like marine biology and science fiction and mermaids and all that. But just so you know, these are not nice mermaids at all. So keep that in mind. I also read and picked up Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton. I also have a review for this on my channel. I read this last month. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. The writing was absolutely gorgeous. The atmosphere was definitely on point. This is a perfect fall read. This has a polyamorous relationship and it follows a group of friends who live in this village where they have this wood and this god in this forest that essentially they have to sacrifice a boy to every 7 years, and in exchange for that boy they have like perfect health, no like poverty, nothing goes wrong with their crops ever, you know, that sort of thing. And just everything about this was so good. It was so much more than I could have hoped from it, and I just really enjoyed this. So I would highly recommend everybody checking this out this fall season. And then back in September, which I also have a review for, that I featured in my wrap-up, I read Sadie by Courtney Summers. This has been all over BookTube. I'm sure you've heard about it if you are not new to BookTube. This is a story about a girl whose little sister gets murdered and she goes on this quest sort of to figure out who killed her and to sort of exact revenge. And it was so good. The audiobook was just 10 out of 10. It's a full cast narration and it also has a podcast element, so you get to experience that as well, and it was just incredible. The story was incredible. I ended up giving this a 5 out of 5 stars. I really liked watching Sadie's journey through the story, and I would highly recommend this. So the last book I have that I've read out of this group of books that I have bought recently is Saw Kill Girls by Claire Legrand. So this is actually my first Claire Legrand book. I really enjoyed the writing, but for some reason for me there was just something that didn't hit the mark for me. So this book is sort of difficult to describe without giving anything away. So essentially it's about 3 girls who live in this town, and they all sort of serve a different purpose. In this town, they have had a number of girls go missing, and at the same time they have these sort of, you know, there's like this paranormal element of this like monster that sort of like lives in the woods near their area, and you're sort of trying to figure out like, how does that like actually work out? And like I don't know, this was like the reviews that I've heard for Furyborn about like her execution sometimes and the way things sort of get like jumbled up is I feel like what happened for me with Saw Kill Girls. But this isn't my wrap up, and I just read this a couple weeks ago, well last week, so I'll talk more about this in my wrap up for November. But I just felt like some things were a little jumbled up, and I just felt like some things weren't explained as well as they could have. There were a lot of things I did like, but there were also some things that I thought definitely could have been done a little more concisely or cohesively. So for that, I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars, but I can definitely see why people love this book, and just, you know, look into more reviews and stuff like that if you're thinking about picking this up. So moving forward, another book that I'm currently in the middle of is The Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I just recently picked up this whole trilogy, and I am on page 166. I'm really enjoying this so far. So I have The Daughter of Smoke and Bone, Days of Blood and Starlight, and Dreams of Gods and Monsters. So I recently also bought Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. So I have 4 new Laini Taylor books for this haul. Moving forward into the kick of fantasy, I have Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. This took literally forever to come in the mail. All I know is that this is about a bunch of badass females that do badass fighting stuff. I also picked up Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I have the first one, but I found this one as a bargain priced, so it was only $8, so naturally I had to get it. Speaking of gigantic books in series that I have not finished, I also picked up Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. This is no surprise. This is the final book in the Throne of Glass series. Then I also picked up The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell. I'm pretty sure this has got some elements with time travel back into the early 1900s, so that sounds super cool, and I'm definitely excited to get into this one. I know the second one just came out a couple months ago. So moving forward, I just picked up Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Engan, and I'm so excited to read this book. First of all, this cover is absolutely stunning. I got the exclusive Barnes & Noble one, which has like the red cover, and just look at that. Like, are you kidding? So this is about a world where this king sort of has concubines, and he picks like 7 girls every time that he comes for, or like picks a new batch of girls. There's always 7, but this time there's 8, and there's supposed to be this really nice female-female relationship in this, so I'm really excited to pick this up. This is probably gonna happen this month. Don't hold me to it though. I also picked up The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White. This is a Frankenstein retelling, and I haven't read the original Frankenstein. Everybody knows that story, I feel like, but I haven't actually read it. So now I'm sort of feeling like, do I need to read Frankenstein first? Should I? I also just 2 days ago picked up Give the Dark My Love by Beth Revis. It sounded really interesting, so here we are. Also picked up The Last Name Sarah by Kristen. I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher it, but I also picked this up recently. Sorry, there's like a huge glare on it, but this cover is absolutely stunning, and I know this is about like dragon fighters, which I know a lot of us aren't really used to like reading about dragons seen in a negative light, but I have heard that this is super polarizing. Like, you either really like this or you really hate it, and I was really intrigued by the premise, so I'm really hoping that I enjoy this. I also recently got The Tethered Mage by Melissa Caruso. I've heard a lot about this, and it's also been sort of polarizing. You either really like this one or you really don't, so I'm hoping for good things with this. This is about a girl who is a mage and tries to hide the fact that she's a mage from an empire that sort of likes to use people for their powers. And that's really all I needed to know to want to figure out if I was gonna like this one on my own, so wish me luck. Okay, so the last couple fantasy books I got, I'm gonna go through really quick, and those are Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow, which I'm sure you guys have all heard about. This is a super fun and whimsical middle grade story, which I'm super excited to get into. I also have Uncharted by Aaron Cashman. This recently came out back in September, and I've heard really good things about it so far, so I'm excited for this. I'm pretty sure this is more like magical realism thrillery, but. And then the final fantasy book I got is Not Even Bones by Rebecca Schaefer. I have also heard really good things about this so far, so please don't let the hype be in vain. Okay, so moving into the thrillers that I picked up The Cheerleaders by Kara Thomas. This is the third Kara Thomas book that I own, none of which I have read yet, shamefully, but I've heard this compared to Riverdale and Veronica Mars, so I was sold. Then the next one I have is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This is sort of like a literary fiction thriller sort of situation, so I've basically seen everybody that I've seen read this has given it 5 stars, so that's setting the bar really high, but I'm still hopeful. I also picked up The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. Ruth Ware is definitely known for writing thriller books, and I own 3 of them as well now, and again, I have yet to read one. That's my brand. The next one I want to show you guys is The Walled City by Ryan Grodin. I saw Brittany at Brittany the Bibliophile talk about this in one of her weekly vlogs, and then I saw it at Barnes & Noble for like $4, so I also picked up Dry by Neil Shusterman and his son Jared Shusterman. This is a story about what it would be like if we had sort of like a worldwide drought and what that would drive people to do. So this is a super intriguing premise, especially with the fact that in some places of the world like California we have had droughts. This is like not that far, like this isn't that unrealistic of a story, so I'm really excited to read this one. Moving on, the next 2 I have are sort of like science fiction thriller books, and the first one I'm going to show you guys is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I also got this one as a super bargain, like on super sale, like as a bargain book at Books A Million, so I've been wanting to pick this one up for a while, and I couldn't believe that I found this stunning hardcover edition as a bargain copy, so there we are. And then another super popular one that I recently got is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This is also a very polarizing book. You pretty much either really like it or you think that it was super confusing and you didn't like it, so I'm really hoping that I like this one a lot. This cover is also gorgeous. Ignore the sticker, but at least you can see that, you know, I'm bargain shopping. So the next ones I have are pretty much all contemporary, and the first one I'm going to show you guys is Young Jane Young by Gabrielle Zevin. I got this one super cheap. I also picked up Consumed by J.R. Ward. I love J.R. Ward. I really loved her Black Dagger Brotherhood series. I only made it through the first 8, but everything I read I really enjoyed, and I'm super excited to jump back in. I know this doesn't have anything to do with her Black Dagger Brotherhood series, but still good enough for me to check out. So the next one I picked up was Blanca and Roja by Anna Marie McLemore. This is supposed to be a really beautiful contemporary story with some elements of magical realism in it. It's sort of like a swan retelling, so this just sounds so beautiful and I cannot wait to dive into this. This needs to happen like this month. The next one I found at a used bookstore, and that is A Million Junes by Emily Henry. I know that a lot of people really love this book, so when I saw it for only $5, I was like, wait a minute, I've seen that around, I'm gonna pick it up. I also picked up A Heart and a Body in the World by Deb Coletti. So I recently have seen a bunch of people talk about this and how it's sort of like a part of the story to sort of figure out what happened for her. I was actually spoiled for what happened to her when the first time I saw somebody talk about this, and that's why I picked it up, because the storyline sounded so good. So I would maybe be wary of that going into it. I know there's a ton of triggers for this book, so you should definitely look those up before picking this up, but this sounds like a really beautiful story about a girl who does a cross-country run because of some because of this traumatic event that she's gone through and was a part of, sort of. So the next one I picked up is Heretics Anonymous by Katie Henry. This is a contemporary story about a bunch of kids who form a group sort of talking about the way they feel and the problems they see with a lot of religions. Seen mixed reviews, but I'm hopeful. That's just my brand. Mixed reviews, but still hopeful. So the last contemporary story I want to show you guys is Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. Again, there's a huge glare on this, but this obviously has a ton of accolades. This is told in verse. This is about a guy whose brother gets shot and killed, and he takes the elevator down as he's like leaving his apartment to go get revenge on who killed his brother, and he sort of encounters these people that have already passed, and they're sort of talking about the circle of violence, and I hope he has a change of heart. This sounds like it's a really powerful story, and I'm excited to jump into this sooner than later. So while I am on that subject matter, before I get into the last genre I do have one nonfiction book, and that is The New Jim Crow: Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness by Michelle Alexander. This is, like I said, a nonfiction story about the rates that minorities and particularly Black men are incarcerated in this country, and how it's basically just a new form or sort of like a legal way to continue on the Jim Crow laws. If you don't know what the Jim Crow laws are, you need to Google that, to say the least. There is definitely something wrong with our incarceration system and our justice system in general, and this is going to talk about that. And it would be unrealistic for me to tell you guys and expect you to all go and read this, but this is a subject that is very important and is very crucial for a lot of us to be educated on. So it is Nonfiction November. If you've got some time and some space on your TBR, I would definitely encourage you to go and check this story out, because it's real and it's necessary and it's still happening today. Moving forward with the other nonfiction verse-ish styled book, so basically a combination of the last two genres I talked about, I picked up To Make Monsters Out of Girls by Amanda Lovelace. This is a poetry collection by her. I read The Princess Saves Herself in this one. I'm pretty sure I reviewed that in a wrap-up. I gave it a 3-star. I haven't read this yet, but I thumbed through it and I really enjoyed what I saw, so I'm definitely hopeful that I will connect with this one a little more than I did with the first poetry collection of hers I read, and it's really pretty. It's a Target editions. And then the final books I got, or the final genre that I'm going to be talking about, is all new adult romance books. So the first two I'm going to show you are by Leah Rader, who has since transitioned into Elliot Wakes, so keep that in mind. And those two books are Cam Girl and Black Iris. I also picked up The Air He Breathes by Brittany C. Cherry. The next one I got is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This is supposed to be a very beautiful love story about a guy who is mute, and essentially every review I've seen for this has been really positive. And we are in the home stretch, and the last two I picked up are The Foxhole Cart by Nora Sekovic. This is the first book in a trilogy all about a fictional sport. Basically only heard good things though, so I definitely urge you guys to all look up all of these books if you're interested on Goodreads or on Google or Amazon, because usually my knowledge is pretty sparse when I just buy them and haven't read them yet. But the final book I picked up is Atheists Who Kneel and Pray by Taryn Fisher, and it's funny that my last two books have these like white covers and they're like exactly the same size, because I've never seen books this size before, these two. But anyway, we have finally made it to the end of the video and the haul, and if you have made it this far, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I know I didn't have a ton to say or describe about these books because I just wanted to get them all out, so that way if you have read them or you do have any opinions or anything like that on them, or you recently hauled or unhauled them, I would love to know. Please feel free to comment and start that conversation with me. And thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!